Testimony wrapped up just a few hours ago in the Adam Benefield murder trial. He's accused of killing his estranged wife in front of their children. The jury saw videos that Benefield recorded of himself just hours before he allegedly killed Keaira Hudson Benefield. In the videos, which were taken only a block away from the crime scene, Benefield talked about their marital problems and alleged abuse. He said, quote, "How much can a person take?" and "I don't want to go back to court," end quote. Police found a court appointment card in his car dated October 6th, the day after Keaira was killed. Closing arguments are scheduled for tomorrow morning.
This is Keaira Hudson being beaten mercilessly by her own husband. September 29, 2022. Keaira Hudson did something that took incredible courage. She posted a video online that showed her husband Adam beating her without mercy. Her hands were shaking as she typed the caption, "This is what this man does to me, but I'm always treated like I'm the abuser." The video was brutal. You could hear the sound of fists hitting her body. You could see the fear in her eyes. But Keaira shared it anyway, hoping someone would finally believe her, hoping someone would finally help her. But here's what's shocking. Even after the world saw what Adam did to her, nothing changed. Just 6 days later, Keaira stood in her mother's hallway, pulling on a bulletproof vest. Her 3 kids watched, confused and scared. Her mom asked, "Why are you putting that on?" Keaira's answer was quiet but terrifying. "Because he's going to kill me. You don't understand." Think about that for a second. She had video proof of the abuse. She had shown everyone exactly what kind of man Adam was. But she still had to wear body armor just to take her kids to school. But how would someone cry out for help only to get completely ignored? Tell us what you think in the comments. Your voice matters. What happened next would shock an entire city and left 3 children without their mother. This is the story of Keaira Hudson. Welcome to our channel. Right now, there are thousands of women like Keaira who are begging for help but getting ignored by the very system meant to protect them. If you want to help spread awareness about domestic violence and the failures that cost lives, then please like this video, share it, and subscribe to this channel. Your action now could help another victim get the attention they desperately need. Keaira Hudson was much more than just another name in the news. She was a loving mother, a devoted daughter, and a caring sister who touched the lives of everyone around her. At just 26 years old, Keaira had already built a life centered around the people she loved most. As a mother, Keaira was completely dedicated to her children. She had that special way of making each child feel like they were the most important person in the world. Friends and family often talked about how her face would light up whenever she spoke about her kids. She was the type of mother who never missed a school event, who always had time for bedtime stories, and who made sure her children knew they were loved every single day. Keaira's relationship with her own family was incredibly strong. She was especially close to her mother and siblings, calling them regularly and visiting whenever she could. Her family described her as the glue that held everyone together. She was the one who remembered birthdays, organized family gatherings, and made sure everyone stayed connected. When someone in the family had a problem, they called Keaira first, because they knew she would listen and help however she could. Those who knew Keaira said she had a warm personality that drew people in. She was the kind of person who could walk into a room and make everyone feel comfortable. She had a genuine smile and a laugh that was contagious. Keaira was also known for being incredibly loyal to the people she cared about. Once you were her friend, you were her friend for life. It was during this time in her life that Keaira met Adam Benefield. In the beginning, their relationship seemed normal and happy. Adam appeared to be charming and caring, and Keaira's family initially welcomed him. Like many new relationships, theirs started with excitement and hope for the future. Keaira had dreams and plans for her life. She wanted to provide the best possible future for her children and build a stable, loving home. She was working toward these goals every day, making sacrifices and putting her family's needs before her own. Her friends often said that Keaira was one of those rare people who truly put others first, sometimes to her own disadvantage. This was the woman whose life would tragically intersect with Adam Benefield's dark intentions, changing everything for her family and community forever. Adam Benefield was skilled at hiding his true nature, and the warning signs crept in so gradually that Keaira didn't realize what was happening until she was already trapped. The first red flags were small things that seemed almost normal. Adam started questioning where Keaira went and who she talked to. He wanted to know every detail about her day. At first, Keaira thought this meant he cared about her. She didn't realize that Adam was actually trying to control every part of her life. Soon, Adam's behavior became more demanding. He didn't want Keaira spending time with her family and friends. He would get angry when she received phone calls or text messages. He made her feel guilty for wanting to see the people she loved. Slowly but surely, Adam was cutting Keaira off from her support system, leaving her more and more isolated. Then came the first incident of physical violence. Like most abusers, Adam was sorry afterward. He promised it would never happen again. He said he loved her and that he had just lost his temper. Keaira wanted to believe him because she still remembered the man she had fallen in love with.
We all lost somebody special. I lost a wife. I love my wife, and she's gone. It's taken from not only them, but from all of us. Because I don't want to be here. I'm forced to be here to fight these charges.
This is how the cycle of abuse works. Violence followed by apologies, then a brief period of calm before it happens again. But Adam's promises were lies. The violence got worse and happened more often. What started as pushing and shoving escalated to punching and beating. James found herself walking on eggshells, never knowing what might set Adam off. She tried to be the perfect partner, hoping that if she just did everything right, the abuse would stop. Keaira knew she needed help, so she started documenting what Adam was doing to her. She took photos of her injuries and saved text messages where Adam threatened her. She was building evidence, hoping that someone would believe her and help her escape. Her sister became one of the few people Keaira could confide in. During quiet moments, Keaira would share what was really happening behind closed doors. Her sister could see the fear in Keaira's eyes and begged her to leave Adam. But leaving an abusive relationship is never simple, especially when children are involved. Keaira also reached out to the police multiple times. She filed reports and asked for help, but the system that was supposed to protect her kept failing. Each time she called for help, nothing seemed to change. Adam would get arrested, but then he would be released, and the cycle would start all over again. The hardest part was watching how the abuse affected her children. They could see their mother's fear and pain, even when she tried to hide it. Keaira was torn between wanting to protect them and feeling trapped in a situation she couldn't escape. Despite everything she was going through, Keaira showed incredible strength and resilience, continuing to fight for herself and her children's safety. September 2022 was when everything changed for Keaira Hudson. After months of suffering in silence, she made a decision that took incredible courage. During one of Adam's violent attacks, Keaira managed to record him beating her. The video was horrifying. You could hear the sound of his fists hitting her body and see the pure terror in her eyes. With shaking hands, Keaira posted the video online. She wrote a caption that broke hearts across the internet. "This is what this man does to me, but I'm always treated like I'm the abuser." She was desperate for someone to believe her, desperate for help that had been denied to her so many times before. The video went viral. Thousands of people saw exactly what Adam Benefield was doing to Keaira. Finally, she had undeniable proof of the abuse. Finally, people could see that she wasn't lying or exaggerating. She thought this would be the evidence that would save her life. Adam was arrested after the video surfaced. Keaira felt a moment of relief, thinking that maybe this time would be different. Maybe this time the system would protect her. But her hope was crushed when Adam was released almost immediately. The courts issued a protective order which was supposed to keep Adam away from Keaira. But as many domestic violence victims know, a piece of paper can't stop a determined abuser. Her fear grew stronger every day. She knew that Adam would be furious about the video and the embarrassment it caused him. She understood that he would want revenge. The protective order felt meaningless when she knew how violent Adam could be. Terrified for her safety and her children's lives, Keaira moved in with her mother. She thought that having family around would make her safer, but even surrounded by people who loved her, Keaira couldn't shake the feeling that Adam was going to find her. That's when Keaira made a decision that shocked her family. She bought a bulletproof vest. Her mother watched in horror as Keaira put on the vest before taking her children to school. When her mother asked why she was wearing it, Keaira's answer was chilling. "Because, Mom, he's going to kill me. You don't understand." Think about that for a moment. A young mother had to wear body armor just to take her kids to school because she knew her ex-partner wanted to murder her. Even with video evidence of abuse, even with a protective order, Keaira still didn't feel safe. Her family was desperate to help her. They called police, they reached out to domestic violence organizations, and they begged anyone who would listen to take the threat seriously. But their pleas seemed to fall on deaf ears. The system that was supposed to protect Keaira kept failing her over and over again. The day before Keaira's murder, Adam was arrested again for assault. This should have been a relief. He was in custody and couldn't hurt her, but incredibly, Adam was released the same day. Less than 24 hours before he would take Keaira's life, the system let him walk free once again. Keaira spent her last night alive knowing that Adam was out there somewhere, probably planning his next move. She had done everything right. She had documented the abuse, she had gotten a protective order, she had moved to a safe place, and she had even bought protection for herself. But none of it mattered, because the system designed to protect domestic violence victims had completely failed her. The tragic reality is that Keaira Hudson's story isn't unique. Across the country, women are being failed by the very institutions that promise to keep them safe. Protective orders are violated every day, and dangerous abusers are released from jail, only to hurt their victims again. Do you think protective orders and bail reform laws are enough to keep victims safe? Let us know your thoughts below. The morning of October 5, 2022 started like any other Wednesday for Keaira Hudson. She woke up in her apartment, got her 2 young children ready for the day, and prepared to drop them off at daycare before heading to work. At 26 years old, Keaira had built a routine that revolved around her kids. They were her world, and she did everything she could to provide them with stability and love. Keaira strapped her children into their car seats in her SUV. Her daughter was just 4 years old and her son was only 2. They chattered excitedly as she started the engine, unaware that this would be their last normal moment together. She had been living with a constant fear that had grown stronger over the past few weeks. Adam Benefield's behavior had become more unpredictable and threatening. She knew he was angry about the custody arrangements and the protective order, but she never imagined he would take things this far. As she drove through the streets of Milwaukee, she kept checking her rear-view mirror. She had developed this habit because she never knew when Adam might appear. Her friends and family had noticed how jumpy she had become. She would look over her shoulder when walking to her car and always made sure her doors were locked. The fear had become a part of her daily life, but she tried to stay strong for her children. What Keaira didn't know was that Adam had been following her that morning. He had been watching her apartment and waiting for the right moment. In his mind, this was the day he would make his final statement. He had already recorded videos explaining his actions, and now he was ready to carry out his plan. Adam followed Keaira's SUV through the city streets. He stayed far enough back that she wouldn't notice him at first, but close enough to keep track of where she was going. His anger had been building for weeks, and he felt like he had nothing left to lose. In his twisted thinking, if he couldn't have control over the situation, then no one could. As Keaira drove down a busy street, she suddenly noticed a familiar car in her mirror. Her heart started racing when she realized it was Adam. She tried to stay calm for her children, but panic was setting in. She considered calling the police, but she was focused on driving and keeping her kids safe. Adam began driving more aggressively. He sped up and got closer to Keira's SUV. Then, in a moment that would change everything, he rammed his car into the back of her vehicle. The impact was sudden and violent. Keira's SUV lurched forward, and her children started crying in the back seat. Keira tried to get away, but Adam wasn't finished. He rammed her SUV again, this time with more force. The sound of metal crashing against metal filled the air. Other drivers on the road started to notice what was happening, but everything was moving too fast for anyone to help. After the second impact, Adam got out of his car. He walked toward Keira's SUV with a gun in his hand. Keira saw him coming and knew she was in terrible danger. She tried to drive away, but her vehicle had been damaged in the crashes. Adam fired multiple shots into the SUV. The bullets shattered the windows and struck Keira. She was hit several times and died almost instantly. Her 2 young children were in the back seat, witnessing their mother's murder. They were physically unharmed, but would carry the trauma of this moment for the rest of their lives. The shooting happened in broad daylight on a busy street. Other drivers stopped their cars and called 911. Some people tried to help, but it was too late for Keira. The children were crying and calling for their mother, not understanding why she wouldn't respond. Adam got back in his car and drove away from the scene. He left behind a community in shock and 2 children who had just lost their mother in the most traumatic way possible. The news of the shooting spread quickly through Milwaukee, and people couldn't believe that someone would commit such a violent act in front of children. Within hours of the shooting, Milwaukee police had identified Adam Benefield as the primary suspect. Witnesses had seen the ramming and shooting, and several people had gotten his license plate number. The police immediately put out a warrant for his arrest, but Adam had disappeared. For 1 week, Adam remained on the run. The police searched everywhere they could think of, including places where his family and friends lived. They checked hotels, abandoned buildings, and anywhere else he might be hiding. The community was on edge, knowing that a dangerous man was still out there. During this time, investigators were building their case. They interviewed witnesses who had seen the shooting and collected evidence from the crime scene.
I hope that others see this and take advantage of when the community sees something, they say something when it comes down to our people and our community.
They also discovered something that would become crucial to the prosecution. Adam had recorded several videos of himself before the murder. On October 12, 2022, exactly 1 week after the shooting, police found Adam and arrested him. He didn't resist when they took him into custody. By this point, he seemed to have accepted that his life was over. The videos that Adam had recorded were disturbing and revealing. In them, he talked about his anger toward Keira and his frustration with the legal system. He felt that the courts had been unfair to him and that Keira had turned his children against him. The videos showed a man who was consumed by rage and had convinced himself that violence was his only option. In the recordings, Adam admitted that he planned to kill Keira. He talked about how he felt she had ruined his life and taken away his children. He also expressed no remorse for what he was planning to do. These videos became some of the strongest evidence against him in court. The trial began several months later. The prosecution's case was straightforward. Adam had stalked and murdered Keira in front of their children. They presented the witness testimony, the physical evidence from the scene, and most importantly, Adam's own recorded confessions. The defense tried to argue that Adam had been suffering from mental health issues and that his judgment had been impaired. They claimed that the stress of the custody battle and the protective order had pushed him over the edge. However, the videos showed that Adam had planned the attack, which made it difficult to argue that he wasn't responsible for his actions. Keira's family testified about the impact of her death. They talked about what a loving mother she had been and how her children were now left without her. The testimony was emotional and showed the jury the real human cost of Adam's actions. The trial lasted several weeks, but the outcome was never really in doubt. The evidence against Adam was overwhelming, and his own videos had essentially convicted him. The jury found him guilty of first-degree murder and other charges related to the shooting. At sentencing, Adam was given life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge said that his actions were among the most heinous crimes he had ever seen, especially because they were committed in front of young children. Keaira's family finally had justice, but it could never bring her back or undo the trauma her children had experienced. After Adam Benefield was sentenced to life in prison, Keaira's family thought their fight for justice was over, but they soon realized that getting justice for Keaira's murder was only the beginning. They wanted to make sure that what happened to their daughter and sister would never happen to another family. Keaira's mother and sister decided to file a lawsuit against the Cheektowaga Police Department and the town itself. They believed that the police had failed to protect Keaira, even though she had repeatedly asked for help. The family's lawyers argued that the police department had ignored clear warning signs and hadn't taken Keaira's fears seriously enough. The lawsuit claimed that there were systemic failures in how domestic violence cases were handled. Keaira had called the police multiple times, filed reports, and even had video evidence of Adam's abuse. Despite all of this, Adam was repeatedly released from jail and allowed to continue threatening her. The family argued that if the police had done their job properly, Keaira would still be alive today. Keaira's sister became one of the strongest voices in this fight. She spoke publicly about how the system had failed her sister and how many other women were facing the same dangers. She attended city council meetings, spoke to reporters, and worked with lawyers to build the strongest case possible. Her mother, despite her grief, also joined the fight because she knew it was what Keaira would have wanted. The legal battle has been long and difficult. The police department and the town have defended their actions, claiming that they followed proper procedures. They argue that they couldn't have predicted Adam's final violent act and that they did everything they could within the law to protect Keaira. But Keaira's family refuses to give up. They believe that the system needs to change so that other families don't have to go through what they've experienced. They want police departments to take domestic violence more seriously and to have better training on how to assess the danger that victims face. The lawsuit is still ongoing and it could take years to reach a final resolution. But for Keaira's family, this isn't just about money or winning a legal case. It's about making sure that Keaira's death leads to real changes that could save other women's lives. They want her story to be a wake-up call for law enforcement and the entire justice system. Keaira's story reached people far beyond Buffalo. News outlets across the country covered her case, and social media helped spread awareness about the failures that led to her death. Many people who had never thought much about domestic violence began to understand how serious the problem really was. The case also led to discussions about what changes needed to be made. Advocacy groups called for better training for police officers, more resources for domestic violence victims, and stricter enforcement of protective orders. They wanted the system to take threats more seriously and to have better ways of assessing which victims were in the most danger. Keaira's death became a symbol of everything that was wrong with how society handles domestic violence. But it also became a rallying cry for people who wanted to make things better. Keaira Hudson was so much more than a victim of domestic violence. She was a loving mother who put her children first in everything she did. She was a devoted daughter and sister who brought joy and laughter to her family. She was a friend who could be counted on and a woman who had dreams for her future. Keaira showed incredible courage in her final months. She documented her abuse, she reached out for help, and she never stopped fighting to protect herself and her children. Even when the system failed her repeatedly, she kept trying to find a way to safety. Her strength in the face of such danger is something we should all remember and honor. Today, Keaira's children are growing up without their mother. They will have to live with the trauma of what they witnessed, but they will also carry forward the love that Keaira gave them. Her family continues to fight for justice and change, making sure that Keaira's story leads to something positive. We can honor Keaira's memory by supporting domestic violence victims in our own communities, by advocating for better laws and policies, and by never forgetting her story. Every time we speak up for someone who is being abused, every time we demand better from our justice system, and every time we refuse to let these tragedies be forgotten, we are keeping Keira's legacy alive. Keaira Hudson deserved to live. She deserved to see her children grow up, to achieve her dreams and to find happiness and safety. While we can't bring her back, we can make sure that her death was not in vain by working to protect other women who are facing the same dangers she faced. Like this video, subscribe to our channel, and share Keira's story to help spread awareness about domestic violence and the urgent need for system reform. Your voice could help save another woman's life.